Hello, welcome to today's class. Today we would be covering the next 25 questions for the CBSE NET examination for Geography Paper 3. Now, most of the questions that were asked for the Paper 3 this time were very based on direct knowledge. You need to know some of the basic concepts to answer the questions and such. So, let's start with the first question. So, first question asks about the sequence of contribution in the field of geography. So now for this, there are two options of solving this question. First is either to remember the year in which what publication came up, or to have a rough idea about the time frame of each of the geographers. So anthropogeography was given by Retzel. So Retzel was a person who came around 1880s. So his text became popular in 1882 and 91. Okay, so he's among the person who would be considered at the last. So Origin of Species by Darwin in 1859. Then you have Cosmos in around 1845. So it was published in 5 volumes. So it started from 1845 and then moved on. So now seeing this, we can say that this was the Retzel's anthropogeography was the one which came up during the last phase. So among the choices, only option that matches is choice C, because 3 is at the last. So that is one way of solving such questions. Okay. The next question here is, which of the following is a protagonist of neo-determinism? The word protagonist means which one of the following has put forward the concept. Okay, it's who has propounded the concept of neo-determinism. So the correct answer is Taylor here. Okay, and antagonist means who has opposed the concept. Okay, so you must be very sure with the terminology that has been asked in the examination. The next question is, you have the name of the rivers and the previous name and the modern name of the river. Okay, so you have to match which river was called as what in the Rigvedic era. So this is something that deals with the geographical thought section. So as we can see, there were a lot of direct questions from geographical thought. This is one of those. So Indus was known as the river Sindhu. So Indus matches with Sindhu. You have Jhelum, which was known as Vitasta. Then Satluj was known as Sutudri, and Brahmaputra was known as Lahutia. Okay, so these are the correct names that have matched during the Rigvedic period. Now, who was the author of the book Cosmos? So Cosmos was written by Humboldt. So this was again a question that is replicated from question 26 here. Okay, so you are asked about the authors of the books. So Humboldt wrote the book which was known as Cosmos. So it was written in 5 volumes again, which is started from 1845 to 62. In 62, it was the last volume which was written posthumously. Which of the following region has the highest population density as per 2011 census? Now, if I look onto the map carefully, you have the Ganga region here. Okay, then this region is known as the Ganga Delta region. Okay, so it includes northern parts of West Bengal and eastern Bihar. Okay, so this region has the highest population density as compared to the Punjab plains, the Upper Ganga plains, or the Brahmaputra valley here, which have comparatively less density. And what you can do is you can match this data with the highest population density data per state. Okay, so if we look onto the state-wise population density, we find highest density among the states of West Bengal and Bihar. Okay, so that correlates with this region. So the correct answer here would be Ganga Delta. Now you have this question. This question talks about Ackermann's population resource region. So Ackermann basically classified 5 population resource regions. So the US type region, according to him, included North America, Australia, and New Zealand. Okay, so you can match from here. The answer would be Australia for the US type region. So this US type region had good technologies. Then you have Europe type region. Under the Europe type region, you have the countries of Europe and Japan. Okay, so Japan, South Korea would all be covered under Europe type region. Then you have the Egyptian type region, which includes the countries like India, Pakistan, China. Okay, and finally you have the Brazilian type region, which includes the countries of Brazil, Malaysia, Southeast Asia. Okay, and then the final classification that he gave was Arctic type region, which included the countries of Greenland and so on. So this classification was given by Ackerman, and this classification it basically focuses on the population and the available resources in that region. Okay, so that's a kind of very direct question from the section on human geography and population demographic geography. Okay, the next question is based on assertion reason. Now, before we start this question, let's have a brief idea about the Amazon basin. So, Amazon basin is a region in South America which has very dense forest. Okay, and that dense forest has hot and humid climate. Because of that, there is luxuriant growth of vegetation, which is locally known as selvas there. And since this region is nearly inaccessible, there is very low population density in the region. Okay, so assertion and reason both are correct, and reason is the correct explanation for the assertion. So you have C as the correct option. Now, important point to note here is that usually this point that both assertion and reason are correct and reason is the correct explanation is usually given as choice A. So most of the students just do silly mistakes of marking A rather than reading it correctly. Okay, so it's very important to read the choices correctly and then mark the answers for it. Then you have the next question, which shows you the Mumford's classification. So Mumford basically talked about 6 stages of urban development. It starts with ecopolis. Okay, then you have polis, metropolis. So you have metropolis, then you have megalopolis, and finally you have trinopolis and necropolis. Okay, so this would be the correct sequence of the answers for the stages of urban development mentioned by Lewis Mumford. We'll be covering all these theories in detail in the section on urban development in human geography. Okay. The next question is, what is the trend of urbanization in India? So the recent trend of urbanization in India is that the urban population in Indian cities is rising rapidly. It's estimated that in 2021, by 2021, there would be 52 crore people in urban areas as compared to nearly 35 crore at the present census. Okay. The next question is, which of the following is the most densely populated area of the world that does not basically rely on agriculture? Now, this is a very direct question. Regions of Egypt, China, and Java are basically the primary source of economic activity here is agriculture, except the Northeast Europe, where you have the whole of conurbation belt, okay, or series of metropolis. So you have New York, Washington DC, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and so on. Okay, but these all have developed mainly on account of service sector and not on basis of primary activities. So the correct answer here would be D, that is Northeast United States of America. Now the next question talks about both Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia and Laos in Nigeria are the example of. Now both of these are the example of primate city. So we have talked about primate city concept in a separate video. So you can just refer the video on primate city for more information. So primate city is a city which is exceptionally larger to the next city in the country. Okay, so it's more than twice the next city is known as the primate city. And both in case of Nigeria and Mongolia, these two are the dominant cities, and rest of all the cities that are present in the region are of very small size as compared to these cities. So both of these are examples of primate city. Okay, now let's move on to the next set of questions that we have. Okay, so here is the next set of questions. As we can see, the questions that we have discussed till now were much more direct, but here we'll have a couple of questions which would be based on fundamental understanding and conceptual knowledge. So let's when we are starting with this question, the very first question here is a kind of question that is based on conceptual knowledge or applicative knowledge, I should say. So this asks you, what is an example of quinary sector in economic activity? Now, when we talk about various economic activities, we have the primary sector that's mainly engaged in agriculture. Then you have the secondary sector in manufacturing. You have the tertiary sector, which is the service sector. You have the quaternary sector, which is mainly based in research activities. And finally, you have the quinary sector, which is the topmost sector that deals with government bodies, government officials, and top executive positions in the field of healthcare, government jobs, and medical, and so on. Okay, so here the correct answer would be serving on the US President's cabinet is an example of quinary sector of economic activity. Rest of all these are not a kind of very high economic activity, which are classified as in the very high strata. Okay. The next question is, in which country petroleum is treated as a source of power, not economy? Okay. In all the three countries, that's Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Iraq, petroleum is considered as a source of economy, except in United States, where it's not the major source of economy. Okay, so the correct answer here is A, United States. The next question is, which one of the following types of agriculture is classified in World Agriculture System by D. Whitelesey? So for this, I would suggest that you refer the Whitelesey's classification that we have already covered in a separate class. So if we talk about the 13 major regions given by Whitelesey's classification, we'll get to know only commercial agriculture is the region which is the type which is not classified under by Whitelesey. Rest all are given under the classification propounded by Whitelesey. The next question is this is a very conceptual question. So the next set of questions that we'll be dealing today are a set of very conceptual questions. So we must follow these questions very precisely. So on the following map of Mexico, at which point Monclidara is most likely to be found? So you have locations A, B, C, and D that are mentioned on the map. Now, if you try to understand what is Monclidara, it's a basically kind of free trade zone that allows foreign investments or investment by other countries and companies in Mexico. Okay, but the government of Mexico has restricted the regions in which Monclidara zone can be established. Those regions can be these kind of free trade zones can be established anywhere in Mexico except three major locations, that is Guadalajara, Mexico, and Chihuahua. So these three are the major areas where you cannot Chihuahua, it's Monterrey. Okay, so basically in these three areas, except these three areas, you can establish a free trade zone anywhere in Mexico. The reason being, these three areas are already highly industrially congested areas and highly urbanized. Okay, so high industrial and urban concentration in these areas have restricted the establishment of Monclidaras in these regions. So the correct answer would be anything that is besides this. So the only choice here is A, which lies outside the things that have been marked on the map. So you have Monterrey, Guadalajara, and Mexico City. Besides these, any location would be a perfect location for Monclidara. So the correct answer was that. Now in this question, you have the cost and revenue lines which are located for four firms, that's A, B, C, and D. You have to choose at which point the firm will have a maximum profit. Now, how can a firm incur maximum profit? To incur maximum profit, there is a simple relationship. The revenue must be greater than cost, and the point where revenue is much more than cost or highest than cost, the difference between them is highest, that point would be the point of maximum profit. Okay, so as we can see here, the revenue and cost means here cost and revenue, there is a kind of difference, but that difference is kind of optimum. But here is the highest difference between the revenue and the cost. So you are earning much more than you are spending on it. So you have location D as the location which will have maximum profit. Okay, so that's again a kind of bit tricky or conceptual questions, I should say. Now, all of the following have been considered as growing industrial countries except. Now, this is a question which is again a tricky question. You have a term which is known as BRICS. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. So you have Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. All these countries, okay, have are considered as countries under BRICS, and these countries are considered as growing industrial countries. Okay, so you have India, Brazil, and China. So only country which is not considered as industrially growing country. So you have a word except here. So the correct answer is Indonesia. Okay, let's move on to the diagram network connectivity. This is again a direct question. What you have to do is you have to form matrix from A to F here and A to F here. So you have 4 such matrices given in the choice. You have to see which one is correct. So A joins with B and C. So A would join with B and C. Okay. So B and C is the correct choice here. Rest all the values would be 0. And again B and C would be 1 here. Okay. Then B joins with A and E. So B would join with A and E. And B would join with A and E. So that's the correct choice here. Then E would join with 3 things, that's C, B, and F. So E would join with C. E would join with C, then B, and then F, and then D also. Okay, so E would join with 4 things, that is B, C, D, and F. So you have B, C, D, and F. Okay. So you have this, and this. Then F would join only with E. So F would join only with E. And D would join with, D would have the connectivity with C and E. So D would have the connectivity with C and E. Okay. So this way we can say that this would be the correct connectivity matrix for this question. So this is a kind of road network diagram. You have to see which location is connected to which other location. The things that would be connected would be marked as 1, and when there is no connection it would be marked as 0. So it's a kind of very direct question that has been asked. The next question is a kind of assertion reason question. For the assertion reason questions, I suggest that you refer the class on assertion reason, on solving how to solve assertion reason, that has been taken separately. So air transport is a useful means of communication in mountain and hilly regions. That's the correct option. And this is because it's difficult to construct road and railways in the mountain region. That's again a correct explanation for it. So I can say both assertion and reason are correct, and reason is the correct explanation for the assertion. Okay. So for these kind of question, it's very important that you understand the question in depth before solving the question. The next question is, that's based on geopolitics. Okay. So you can refer the Mackinder's theory that we have covered in a separate session for understanding this question in detail. Okay. Now the question asks, which of the following significantly weakened the strength of Mackinder's geopolitical heart theory? So Mackinder basically talked about the heartland and the surrounding rimland that surrounds the heartland. So heartland was the main center of power, and that center of power slowly and gradually weakened with the rise of United States international influence after the Second World War. So this heartland was the region basically on the northern European region. Okay, and this weakened only after United States gained power. So slowly and gradually this heartland tried to dismantle. So the correct answer here is A. The next question is, which of the following explains a relationship among economic inequalities, environment, and power structure? So the correct answer here is human ecology. Political ecology is the term that establishes relationship between power, environment, and economic inequalities. Okay. The next question is, what is the primary difference between a state and a nation? So a state is like a country or a region within the United States. Okay, and that's basically a political abstract. Whereas nation is a term that talks about cultural unitedness, or a kind of group that is much more having a close-knit network. So nation is a human group. Okay, so the correct answer here would be state is considered as a political aspect while nation is a human group. Now the next question. So there were a lot of questions on assertion reason this time. So the next question is, there is hardly any pure race even in the remotest or the isolated areas of the world. So that's a true statement. That is, no race can be defined as a pure race. There is intermingling of characteristics, be it physical characteristics or any other characteristics that are manifested in each of the race. Okay, so human being comprises a single species, that is Homo sapiens. Okay, and those Homo sapiens manifest certain differences in physical characteristics from one species, and all members are mutually fertile. So this is the correct explanation for this assertion. So both are true, and reason is the correct explanation for assertion. The next question you have to match. Caucasoids are considered as Europeans. Okay, you have Negroids as Africans. Okay, you have the Indic group that is considered as Hindus, and then you have the Mongolites that are considered as the Oriental population, or Orient on the east side. Orient basically means east. Okay, so you have the correct matches that are given here, a very direct question. And finally, you have to match the two statements here. So the statement says, Central America has huge group of people like Mongols, Kazakhs, Uzbeks, and Kyrgyz. So you have Kyrgyz in Kyrgyzstan, Uzbeks in Uzbekistan, Kazakhs in Kazakhstan, Mongols in Mongolia. Okay, so these are the group of people who are residing in Central Asia, and most of these people are herders or horsemen because this region is not very fertile. Okay, so most of the people prefer for nomadic activities. Okay, so both of these statements are independently correct, but reason is not the correct explanation for assertion. So here the correct choice would be B. Okay, both the statements are independently correct, and reason is not the correct explanation for assertion. So with this, we cover the next set of 50 questions. We'll be covering the further set of 25 questions with which we'll cover the CBSE net paper for Geography, paper 3, 2014 December examination. So stay tuned for the next session. Have a good day ahead.